All right, it looks like we're set up and ready to go. What I do ask is that when you come up to the podium, please sign in, note which case you are talking about, and make sure you speak into the microphone. We do create minutes from these meetings, and I need to be able to hear what's said. So at this point in time, oh, their screens aren't on. In about 2 minutes, Mr. Larkin should get that turned on for everybody, and then the chair, I'll turn this over to the chairman, and he should be able to call this to order. Just 3.
If you plan to take my seat, I'd appreciate you just come up there and sign in there.
All right, we'll bring it to.
First thing I want to do is approval of the minutes.
I move, move,
2020.
I'm sorry, move we accept the minutes. I move we approve the minutes.
A second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All in favor. Thank you. New business.
All right, the first item under new business is TMS number 232-07-03042, 114 Mendenhall Street, zoned PUD planned unit development, owned by Ray and Karen Quarata. Variance request to reduce the required rear yard setback from 15 feet to 5 feet and increase the permitted lot coverage from 35% to 50% for the addition of an accessory structure, ordinance section 2.10. 1 second. My apologies. So this is the property on Mendenhall over in South Point. So you can see the property is zoned PUD. So the request for the placement of the structure was made during, not during the Board of Architectural Review. I apologize. This was done prior to application for permit. This is not in the historic district. This is staff's evaluation of the criteria. Extraordinary conditions do exist on the property. The irregular shape of the property, location of the primary structure, and the location of the trees on the property that the owner wishes to preserve makes for extraordinary conditions. The other property in the area do have similar conditions, but each lot is unique. C, utilization of the property is not eliminated or unreasonably restricted due to the lot coverage limit. The proposed garage would not be able to be constructed on the property, but there is an existing garage and storage shed already existing on the property. The setback is determined by the location of the front of the house, and I'll highlight that in just a minute. So, and then the detriment will not be caused to other properties by the issuance of the setback variance on this property. However, the lot coverage variance could pose a flooding risk to other properties. As stated in other lot coverage variance requests, by continuing to approve lot coverage increases, the town is contributing to future flooding issues, both upstream and downstream of this location. Let me reduce this in size just a bit so that I can go over the evaluation. This plan south frontage is what we consider the front. That's where the front of the house is facing. It's where it's addressed off of. The side property line, this is a side property line on the cul-de-sac, making this property line here the rear property line. And that is how lots have been evaluated in this particular neighborhood based on this particular layout. As you can see, this is the lot in question. There are other lots on the cul-de-sacs throughout this neighborhood that have similar shapes as this one and would be evaluated in a similar fashion. Without an accurate plat showing all of the things that are located on the property, we had to use the dimensions provided by the applicant, the dimensions of the proposed garage, and the existing subdivision plat that gives us an idea as to where we're at. The maximum lot coverage limit in this neighborhood is 35%. Based on our calculations on concrete, existing patio pavers, the garage, the house, and then the proposed garage, the proposed lot coverage would be 50%. That is where we're at on this. I know that the applicant is here and he had provided his extraordinary conditions and his response to those 4 conditions. I hope you had time to read those. I just, staff feels that unfortunately, the applicant doesn't meet all 4 criteria to be able to be issued a full variance on this property.
Tim, if that right side was considered a side, what would be the setback required?
5 feet.
5 feet.
And as I said in my evaluation, I didn't think that the setback is the issue by any means. The location of the proposed structure is appropriate based on the configuration of the lot. The greatest concern of staff has always been lot coverage, especially in this neighborhood. Mendenhall does have, which is part of the overall South Point subdivision, has come out in force against future proposed developments that could potentially contribute to flooding issues in the neighborhood. And to say that it is a function of the fact that it is an older neighborhood that was developed prior to current stormwater standards. So a lot of it and the flooding issues, both upstream and downstream, are contributed to by this development in and of itself.
When you worked up coverage, what's the current coverage?
It's over. It's over the 35%. I believe it is around 40 to 45. Unfortunately, it's hard to be entirely accurate because we don't have a plata survey, which would fully provide the exact details of what the existing lot coverage is.
There was no,
There's the plat. This is what the minimum requirement is to be submitted as part of the application. So we have this, and then we have the plan, which was provided by the applicant, and this is what qualifies and is the minimum requirement to meet building permit requirements locally. You do not need to provide a full plat of survey showing the current conditions. We do request it in situations similar to this, where it's close and we need to make sure that a property is, under or over one way or the other. In this particular instance, we knew it was an existing condition, and based on the information provided, the number that we came up with was like 49.8%. So we rounded up to 50% to be safe for the request.
But either way, that's a kind of a plus or minus number because of the uncertainty, but it's in the ballpark.
Mhm.
Where's it going?
Well, when this was developed, there wasn't a stormwater plan in place. That is why there are issues in the South Point overall neighborhood, as well as in Mendenhall and others. And I know for a fact that, it drains towards 78 is my understanding, though. The water comes south.
Where is south?
In this particular instance, south would be this point here where the 20 is. By the driveway. So north is actually on the left side.
Driveway. Goes south.
Yes, that's generally south.
Oh, go ahead.
I think calculations based on all the measurements there, and I measured everything thoroughly. I'm certainly not discounting Mr. McCall's expertise. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Ray Quaranta. Pardon? Yes, I am. So after all of my calculations, I calculate a 386 square foot difference overage. Now, I could certainly be wrong. I'm not an expert. However, that being said, if you look at the picture, I'm putting the garage in a place that is barren and useless, number one. And number two, it's at the end of the driveway, so it's illogical. And number three, if you notice the next door neighbor's home, I've put it right equal to the front of his house because his house is set so far back compared to mine. I'm trying to remain respectful of my next door neighbor so as not to plop a garage as soon as he walks out his front door, and that's what he's looking at. So, and he is completely on board with this, by the way. So I had thought about an option of pulling it forward onto some of that existing concrete, which I want to use for parking as I pull past my house and so forth. But then again, that would not be respectful of my neighbor, right? So that's kind of why I would like to do it this way, thereby reducing that 50% number that Mr. McCall is talking about. So I want you to understand, I'm trying to be mindful of all those things and thinking ahead of, and that's why that's the perfect place for it. I also understand, because I've spoken with Mr. McCall in detail, that, just because I don't, or even my immediate neighbors don't have any drainage issues, I realize that drainage issues do happen elsewhere. So I know that you have to take that into account. There are none in this general vicinity. So also that shed there that's existing, that will be gone. I'm removing that. That's not going to remain.
Where is that shed?
It's directly in front of the proposed garage. Yeah. That
Okay,
square.
in that, on that concrete, okay.
I won't need that any longer because I'll have a garage to keep those things in. So, also, I'd like to state that if you look at that driveway, it's a side load into the existing garage. Extremely difficult to park anything in and out of that garage. And besides that, we have to play musical cars to get anything parked in that driveway to get in and out of that side load garage. So these are all the things that I'm kind of faced with and concerned with.
Question, where? Rock.
Directly in the front. So I'll pull straight through, straight into right there.
Where the shed is paved. Is that right?
Yes.
It'll stay paved, obviously.
I'd love nothing more than to get that shed out of the middle of that area. I don't know why the previous owner put it there. Should have been in the back somewhere, but that's where it is. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. It's a very oddly shaped piece of property. If it were square, it'd be a lot easier, but that's what I've got. You have any other questions for me?
The garage, the shed you can remove, is that sitting on the concrete pad?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that doesn't make any difference in rain seeping into the ground. Okay.
No.
No, because it's on concrete.
But it's one less little building in the way. I'd like to be able, if you can see that line between the existing garage where it tapers down in the back, there's a fence there with gates. I'd like to put automatic gates there and be able to drive through and park the everyday cars back behind that existing garage.
It's all concrete.
Yes. Right. It's already there. Doesn't hurt.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna move that we defer this. I don't think we'll get a unanimous vote on this. And I hate to end up with a 2-to-1 vote.
Here's was to defer.
Yeah.
I second the motion to defer.
All in favor? Deferring it.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
Well, because right now, if one person votes for it, the other three against it.
Right.
they'll win. But this is the five, but it-
Oh, oh, man.
For,
one more, that and one more person. Then you get 50 people. So I pass.
it's not a simple majority, the way that the Board of Zoning Appeals rules are written. You have to have a minimum 3 affirmative votes for any motion to pass. Unfortunately, due to an absence, an unexpected absence, we are down to 3 members. So any decisions that are made tonight either need to be unanimous, or I believe Mr. Kermes has chosen to give you an opportunity to have another conversation about this next month, and that's what the deferral means. So you'll be automatically moved to next month, and you'll be under old business where we can discuss it again. And maybe what we can do in between now and then is get a more accurate picture as to what the exact lot coverage is as best as we can. And see if there's some difference, or maybe there are ways that we could mitigate the addition of the larger garage and see if we can reduce the amount that the variance needs to be.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your consideration.
All right, the second item under new business is TMS number 13710110009, 420 West Carolina Avenue, Zone GR2 General Residential, owned by Joe Kolke and Stephen Mize. Variance request to allow the placement of an accessory structure in the front yard, ordinance section 3.5.2A1. As you can see here, this is the property highlighted in green. Come on. The ordinance requires that any accessory structures be located fully in the side yard or in the rear yard of a property behind the front face of the house. The proposed location of the shed, and it's going to be a storage building, is in the front here, in front of the front line of the house. So if we drew a line across this lot, across there, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Anyways, across the front line here, anything in front of that is considered the front yard. So their preferred location happens to be in the front yard. Based on staff's evaluation, staff feels that the applicant does not meet all 4 criteria and that a hardship is present. A, extraordinary conditions do exist on the property. The irregular shape of the property, location of the primary structure, and the location of trees on the property that the owner wishes to preserve makes for extraordinary conditions. B, other property in the area do have similar conditions, but each lot is unique. C, utilization of the property is not eliminated or unreasonably restricted due to the requirement that accessory structures be located behind the front line of the dwelling. It could be possible to place the proposed accessory structure behind the front line of the dwelling. And D, detriment will not be caused to other properties by the issuance of the variance on this property. So I believe that the Board of Architectural Review has reviewed and approved the general design contingent upon the approval of the location by the Board of Zoning Appeals. I know that a representative of the applicant is here, and I can turn that over to them to discuss the proposal in full.
I'm just gonna sign in real quick. My name is Emily. I did all the work to present this to the BAR and get approval. And so the way that this lot, when you pull in, I sent you some pictures too, Tim, if we need them, but from the street, when you pull down the long shared driveway, we end up in the back of this whole development area. And then the yard to the right of the house, there's an existing garage structure. And so the only option, we can't put it in front of that garage. So we were trying to put it on the right side of the garage instead of on the left side because there's that 4-foot live oak tree. So the owners are trying to preserve that. And really with the foliage that you can see in those pictures, you can't see it at all from the tree. And it feels more like a side yard than a front yard with the way that it's set up.
I can't pull up the ones that you were sent today, and I don't know why this version of the packet doesn't have the pictures. That being said, it just highlights the pictures that were provided, just shows, you know, the larger area here. You can see the garage, the house, the tree, and it is a significant tree, and we do take that into consideration. The preservation of the tree, it can contribute to there being an actual hardship on the property. We would not want to negatively impact the large live oak that is there.
That brings me to the question that your staff's evaluations of the 4 criteria were, it wasn't clear how staff ended up saying there was in fact a hardship. Is that the tree?
Yes, I believe that the shape of the lot, the location of the tree, all contributes to there being extraordinary conditions that do exist. The one that kind of throws it off is C, utilization of the property. It isn't unnecessarily restricted by requiring it be behind the front face of that house. You could potentially build something there. Would it impact that tree? Yes, definitely. So I think that with an appropriate criteria, if you identify something that, you know, you can throw out there and just show that they do meet all 4 criteria, it's up to the board to provide that.
Let me ask a hypothetical question, Tim. Could the board disagree with staff's evaluation or with the ruling that is in fact in the front yard?
That's not what's in question.
So we can't just say it's not the front yard.
That's not what was appealed. So they could appeal that determination if they so chose. So like potentially, if you chose to deny this and they wanted to come back again with a similar, they could appeal the decision that this is the front yard. Now, it would be hard to make that argument or disagree because all of our precedent is based on that. In 20 years, viewing lots, oddly shaped lots like this, where you have a flag lot, the front of the house is always, you just draw a line straight across the lot. Whatever's in front of that is the front yard. Whatever is behind that is side and rear. That's how it's evaluated everywhere that I've ever worked.
But there were two locations. One was a possible location. Meeting. And my understanding the concern is the nearness to a tree. Live oak, right?
We'd have to remove that tree in order for it to fit.
Oh, that,
It wouldn't fit. That's the problem. So the only option on this lot is to the right side of that garage.
yeah, you wouldn't get the permit to remove the tree.
Yeah.
I
So that
doubt
was
there-
created after we already got approval from the BAR, and we were just trying to figure out if there was another option, and there's just not.
Tree Protection Board would definitely
Yeah.
deny that request.
Right.
You're gonna leave that existing garage there?
Yes. So that's an existing garage where they actually use it for their vehicles. This would be a storage structure.
By the images that we see, that's a fairly attractive building, not,
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's supposed to match the house. So the way that we planned it would be, to match the age and the history of the house.
has there been any conversation with neighbors, any issue, any concern on the neighbor's part?
No, I haven't heard any.
Staff did not receive any calls or concerns.
But, I mean, the neighbor right in front there knows what you're proposing and has no issue.
One at a time, give somebody else a chance to talk. Ask a question. Sorry,
Sorry.
I don't have anything to say.
I'm good.
I do have photos on my phone if it would be helpful. I did bring them.
If you would like to share, you can show them. My apologies. I thought I had them ready to go and should have been in the packet.
So this is the view from the street.
Yeah, we see. Show them, sir.
And, and then the structure would actually be behind the streets.
Because I took some pictures.
And you're actually looking at the yard. On the
I've got a picture
Mhm.
to the right. Yeah, it's just all, it's all trees.
Right.
Any other discussion?
That's all I got.
Sam, are you here for this one or are you here for the last? one? Right. Well, do you have anything to say? If you're talking about this property? No, not. Or the other, all right. I wasn't sure.
wanted to just wait, we'll.
Yeah.
Come around.
All right. Any other questions? Discussion? Can I have a motion?
I'll move that we grant the variance.
Granted.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
But I'll ask before we vote, Dennis, will this pass?
Go ahead.
I'll just ask you, will this pass? I'll withdraw the motion if not.
I'll just do it for.
Okay. So we have a motion in place. I think this is unnecessarily restricts utilization based on the fact that there's a live oak that, the only other building the shed on this property is a reasonable piece of utilization that doesn't impact anybody else, and the live oak restricts. The fact that the live oak there restricts the utilization in the backyard, and putting it in this kind of pseudo front yard is just no problem to anybody.
Thank you very much.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Oh,
We got a vote.
Any other discussion? No. All in favor of approving, raise your right hand. Good night.
There you go.
thank you.
Now you got it.
Any other business?
All right, Mr. Thermes had asked, where we were at on expanding the board. I believe, as I said, it was on planning commission's agenda to be discussed. That was passed along to council with a recommendation to approve. That amendment does require 2 readings of council before it's fully passed, and we would not anticipate the expansion of the board to happen until January of 24, when when town advertises for open positions, they will advertise for 2 new positions on the board. So you guys will go from 5 to 7. That should make things a little bit easier.
Have we expressed support in any way, and should we? Does it make a difference?
I would say it's definitely not going to hurt to speak to your councilman about it, your representative, because then they're going to understand where you guys are coming from and why. Because you did ask earlier this year for staff to do this and move it forward. They do know it was initiated by you, but it doesn't hurt to speak to any of the council members that you feel like would be helpful.
We're all in favor, is right?
I think we're all in favor.
I'll write a letter to George Bailey, he's mine.
Any other business?
I know that there is this fine lady here who's waited through our meeting. If you'd like to step up to the podium and address anything that you would like to address, if we can address it, we'll do our best to help.
Well, see my contractor here, so, but he sent me this.
What's the address?
108 Stewart Place.
Okay. Ma'am, I apologize. I had spoken with your contractor. I know he said that he had communicated. I'm assuming you're the property owner, yes? Okay. I explained to him that he needed your authorization to be a representative on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I was not able to place the case on this agenda. It will be on next month's agenda. He did get me all the documentation that I needed after the cutoff date. We have a very strict cutoff date for it. It has to be published in the local newspaper, and a sign needs to be placed on the property. So my apologies for that. We did have to cut it. He had the application in, but it wasn't fully complete. So I hope he communicated that to you properly. Okay. Yes, ma'am. No, we still had the meeting because we had other items on the agenda, but yours unfortunately was not able to be heard at this one just due to the cutoff.
All I wanted was just a little screaming back for my 81-year-old mother to go out without the speaker.
So my understanding, having looked at the documents that were available, is it's a lot coverage issue. there is a specific limit as to what can be covered on a lot. And I believe you're in a townhouse. They're always more difficult because they sit on much smaller lots, and it is harder for us to be able to get all the necessary information. As I stated in one of the prior applications, lot coverage contributes to flooding. Flooding is an issue, region wide, and that's why we have those limits. So I would be happy to discuss it further with you if you would like more clarification on that. If you have time to make an appointment to give me a call, or I'd be happy to give you, if you want to tell me when I can give you a call, be happy to do that. We can discuss the overall application if your contractor hasn't clarified that for you. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back over to them, and when we're done, because we're just going to close the meeting, you and I can head down to my office. I'll give you my card and we'll set a time to discuss. Okay.
We adjourn. All in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.